But the Optimus, all by itself, is mind-boggling. And again, as a factory owner, the minute I saw the thing walk out on the stage 2 years ago, the minute it walked out on the stage and was able to manage itself in just that little bit of time that we saw, I was like, I would have bought the thing. I would have paid $100,000. No questions asked. The foundational fundamentals of the company are so solid, and the new products that are coming along are just absolute. Well, okay, if you watch my channel, you know I'm an Optimus optimist. So if I were not interested in Tesla any other way, if I didn't care about the cars and I didn't care about the dojo and if I didn't care about any of the energy, which I do, and I care about all these categories, and I'm very excited and interested in them. But the Optimus, all by itself, is mind-boggling. And again, as a factory owner, the minute I saw the thing walk out on the stage 2 years ago, the minute it walked out on the stage and was able to manage itself in just that little bit of time that we saw, I was like, I would have bought the thing. I would have paid $100,000. No questions asked if they had put it on sale that day. And I'll just tell you a quick story. I had we manufactured bottles, but we didn't have, these were the bicycle style water bottles where you have the cap that snaps on and a little poppet that pops out there, and they snap on with a little tether, and the tether holds the cap in place. So when you take it off, when you're riding your bike, you don't lose the cap because it's tethered on. Well, there was very, very hard to automate putting that cap on the top of that bottle. And I had some companies come in. Now, this is 30 years ago. I had some automation companies come in that were specialized in that kind of automation. And every one of them, the bid was $100,000 to automate that process of putting those caps on those bottles. Now, I would have paid the $100,000 easily, except there was a little caveat that they had in the contract. We won't guarantee that it'll work. This is a complicated thing you've asked us to do, and we think we can do it, but we won't guarantee it. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend $100,000 without a guarantee. Now, you give me an Optimus for $100,000, and I put him back there, he'll work. He'll be able to do it. It might take him a week or a month. I don't know yet how long it would take, but we're only talking about stretching a little piece of plastic, moving something over, and then pushing it down so that it snaps. That's not hard for a human. It wouldn't be hard for a robot. And that was the thing that I couldn't get out of my head, is that I would happily pay $100,000 for that bot. Would have replaced 6 people.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like you just mentioned that this is 2 years already since they announced the bot, which I can't believe it. Time is flying here, but just it goes back to just the pace of innovation. And I mean, how do you think this plays out? Is the bot going to be working in their factories in the next year or two? Like, what do you look out and have any timelines in mind?
Well, so I have interviewed on my show, I've interviewed Scott Walter and Joe Justice and multiple other individuals who are specialists in robotics, specialists in human movement, mechanical movement, etc. And also experts like Joe Justice in terms of factory layout design, Scott Walter, who has been in the robotics business his entire adult life. Everybody thinks it's like a super easy product to build. This is not a hard product to build. It is going to cost around $6,000, maybe a little less when it's in full production, maybe as much as $10,000 when they start out, but probably not a dime more. Scott Walter has gone through an entire list of all the actual cost of goods, the actual bill of materials, and gone line by line, buying it from Walmart. I mean, not from Walmart, from Amazon. Going on and buying the motors and buying the actuators on Amazon. And so we were talking about it when he's going through this on my show. And I said, so in other words, if you built these things, they'd be like 20% of the cost of what it would be on Amazon. He's like, yeah, well, duh. So anyway, we've all figured out, pretty much everybody's in agreement that I've had on my show, somewhere between $6,000 and $10,000. And I would have paid $100,000 for that thing without even, I wouldn't even, and this is 30 years ago, I would have paid $100,000. So you can imagine how much more I might pay today, maybe a couple of $100,000 for something that'll cost them $6,000 to build. And all of them agreed. All of them agreed. The hardware, not a problem. It's a done deal. And Elon says they're going to start building them in 60 days, November. So the software is the hard part. And I'm guessing that the software isn't that hard either, based on what we're hearing.
Right, and especially when it just seems like the next logical step. We already have full self-driving, which is magnitudes more difficult, moving at high speeds and all of these variables, versus putting that into a slow, factory robot. Probably not that difficult of a transition there. And then, as you said, you would pay $100,000 for a warehouse automation robot. It makes a lot of sense. I know that there's a lot of companies looking to get into that. There's another one I'm invested in called Symbotic. I know they're working on warehouse automation. I don't know if you're familiar with that company, but that's a fascinating space, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, companies constantly looking to improve their efficiency, and with all the other headwinds facing that industry that we've seen the last few years, having a robot that can work 20 hours plus a day, just briefly stop to charge. I think that this is in the near future for sure.
Yeah, one of the most fun parts for me about running businesses over the years has been the employees, but that's becoming less and less fun. Because of regulations, because of the way that employees see the ownership now compared to the way they saw ownership 50 years ago, 70 years ago. It's a whole different world. There is no sense of loyalty by the companies or the employees like there was 50, 70 years ago. I saw it as a family. I definitely went to weddings and funerals, and it was a family atmosphere, and it's hard to get that today with all of the onerous ways that government has put their hands into the employee relationship with the owner.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to pull up here. There's an interesting chart. I had written an article over on Substack about Amazon, another company that I'm excited about. Not as excited about Tesla, but I think it would probably be my second choice. But just showing you, here we go. Let me pull this up really quick here. Present. So if you look at this chart here by ARK Invest, you can just see the number of robots that the company employs is rapidly increasing. The number of employees, it's been going up, but the number of robots is definitely, I think, going to start to really exponentially increase and catch up because of the reasons you outlined. I mean, it's just the next logical step, it seems.
Well, we've been doing this for over 100 years, over 150 years. We've been automating things. Actually, I guess if you go all the way back to the loom, the automatic loom, you can talk about 300 years. But, the number one job in America when I was a teenager was secretary. There's no such thing as a secretary anymore. Administrative assistants might be they do some of those things, but nobody types a letter for the boss anymore.
Now that's all going to be ChatGPT soon too.
So the marketers are gone too. Yeah, my son is a marketer, and I asked him. I said, "Are you going to lose your job? Now that ChatGPT is around?" He says, "No." He says, "The people that will have jobs in the future are the people that know how to use ChatGPT."
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So there's so many to pick from, but if you had to pick one, what do you think is Tesla's biggest competitive advantage?
Oh my goodness. Probably flexibility. So when we were writing the Elon Musk mission, we came up with, I think it was 21 moats. Maybe it was 22. I forget now. And then after it was finished, we came up with 3 more. But before we actually published, we all of a sudden realized that flexibility was one we had left out. I think the flexibility moat is the number one thing that other companies don't have. They don't get it. They never will. It's almost impossible to have it if the owner, if the top down, if everybody in the organization doesn't understand the potential and the reasons for flexibility. So you have, just in the last, what? Well, since the book came out, since Isaacson started putting out the little blurbs, you have the flexibility, potentially. Brian White's not sure this is true, but you at least potentially made the decision to move the Generation 3 vehicle over to Austin instead of starting it out in Mexico. So within a couple of weeks in May, they made the decision, maybe we should not do this in Mexico first. We've got all of our top talent in Austin. Let's do it first in Austin. Now, we'll find out whether that's true or whether that's just something that may or may not have actually taken place. We know that the conversations took place. We're not doubting Isaacson, but whether or not that has literally been done, or whether maybe it will just be to build the tooling and then they'll move it immediately, I don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on. But that kind of flexibility, that would take most companies years to make the decision and then years to execute on the decision. So this is a different kind of company.
Most companies, it's just too many layers of managers, managing managers to make those types of calls and just quickly take action. I had Farzad Mesbahi on the channel a while back, and he said he thought the biggest advantage, Farzad's a former Tesla employee, for anyone who doesn't know, was Tesla's culture. But I think that flexibility, culture, all these things go hand in hand. And the important thing is you have the people who are willing to be flexible, to adapt, to change. And yeah, that's exactly what you've seen. Tesla, even a few years ago, it's almost a completely different company today, because even when they announced the bot, at first I was a little skeptical. I was like, all right, hold on. Like, what are we doing now? Like, I got in here for electric vehicles, then it was full self-driving. But it is just this constant pace of change that is a result of culture and willingness to constantly adapt. And I think that's probably in this ever-changing world where I think we're moving at the fastest pace we ever have, it just the pace of iteration, the pace of change, being able to keep up with all that is probably the most important facet of your business to stay competitive.